Portents of Fear is a horror fiction podcast which is intended for mature audiences. Discretion is advised. Welcome, Fearlings, to another weird and horrifying tale made just for you. I am your host, Michulhu, and I'll be your guide into the macabre and mysterious. Tonight's story is about an aged vampire's past in Ancient Memories. Before we get started, take a moment to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss a single terrifying story. Notre Dame Cathedral towered over the bustling square in front of it. Paris was alive. Warm summer air brought a smile to people's faces. But John wasn't a person, and he hated it. He missed the old city before light pollution stole the stars and cars clogged the streets, though he'd admit that the city did smell better. The crowd parted like the Red Sea as he moved. Of course, none of them would remember doing so, or even that he was there. At his age, John decided when he was to be seen or remembered. He could bury his fangs in one of them right there and then, and no one would notice till they tripped over the corpse. Stopping short of the entrance, he glanced up. The tall, lighted windows made him think of God's judgmental gaze. He smiled and went in. Being around so many beating hearts was not easy, even having already fed. He could smell their blood. Modern blood tasted in most countries like too much processed food and microplastics. But food was food, and vampires were like great white sharks, always needing to keep moving forward, always needing to feed. Luckily, he'd learned control. The pews were full for Wednesday evening mass. The cathedral was gorgeous. He became lost in a memory of a very different time. Sister Euphemia lay on the center of the floor not far from the front pew. The place was in shambles. The terror was in full swing. The cathedral had been vandalized, but moreover, it felt like Paris would consume itself. This memory was as vibrant and real as its modern counterpart. He felt like he existed in both times at once. A young nun who almost got him killed. The terror, the blood running in the gutters, the hot ash floating in the air. It was all there. He shut his eyes and focused, willing his mind back to the present. The sights, sounds, and smells abated. "Hello," a cracked voice said behind him. John turned. Father Bernard stood a few feet away. His hair, once a thick black mane, had become a few gray wisps. Time had etched experience into his sagging alabaster skin. John could hear a weak heartbeat. His friend's time was short. "Hello, Father. It's good to see you. The renovations are astounding. How are you liking Paris?" John finally replied with a predator's smile. "I've enjoyed it immensely. The historic city of lights? Well, you can't get much better than that, in my opinion. So, did you just come to see the renovations? I didn't think you'd see value in such things, to be honest." "Of course I do. Without the arts, what is life?" "I agree. Just surprising, I guess. Since you're here, how about I take your confession? I'm sure you're long overdue." A thunderous laugh echoed through the cathedral. Everyone in the pews turned to look at the two men. Father Bernard quickly lifted his hand to apologize to the priest at the altar and led John away from Mass. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to disrupt the service. You caught me off guard. Still trying to get me in that closet of yours? I feel it might help you. What you do, the drinking of blood, the killing, God can forgive all if you confess. If I repent in heart and mind, no thank you. Instead, come with me. It's a wonderful night for walking. The fresh air will do you good," John said. The priest smiled. "You know I'm dying, don't you?" "Yes." "Why not become a vampire? I could show you the world." We seem to always fall back into this. I offer to hear your confession, and you offer to make me a monster. John's eyes narrowed as he restrained a snarl. "I didn't come here to be insulted," he snapped. The priest took a step back and bowed his head slightly, as if trying to calm an aggressive dog. "I didn't mean to offend, but John, you cannot be mad at the truth. You feed on people. It's wrong. You have to know that," the priest replied. "No, it isn't. Human blood is my food, nothing more. Humans don't ask cows if they want to be steaks," John pointed out. "That's an old, played-out argument, and you know it. Let's walk and talk of other things. Time is not on my side, old friend." The vampire nodded. As they walked, the old vampire's mind floated between time periods again. Tourists and French revolutionaries shared spaces, walking through one another. The stench of old Paris mingled with the modern smells of the city. Blood ran in the gutters, carrying along present-day trash. The glow of oil lamps replaced bright lights. John closed his eyes again and willed the past away. "Are you all right?" Father Bernard asked. "Yes, Like you, I'm getting old, that's all, John replied. I thought the whole point of being a vampire was that you didn't get old, he mused. Yes and no. We don't age. The issue is our brains. The vampire mind holds every memory, every kill, every love in perfect detail. The older the vampire, the more the memories pile up. Some ancient vampires, like myself, can no longer focus on just one reality. The past and present begin to overlay one another. While here, I've been seeing old Paris from multiple eras. The most prominent memories are from when I lived here during the Terror. Let's just say it can be disorienting. John noted Father Bernard's look of concern. After so many years, he wondered why the priest could stand him. Humans that got close to him without being hypnotized tended to be lost souls. But here was this priest, strong of mind and conviction, even at his advanced age, trying to save a soul John no longer had. I can imagine. What's the prognosis then? There are 3 ways this can go. The memories drive me insane and I can no longer care for myself. This usually ends in death. Next, isolation. I build a home in a region I have never been in and stay there. I'd have to rely on human servants to bring me what I needed. Finally, I could wait for the sun to come up and burst into flame. None of those sound good. I'm sorry. The 2 came to a bench on a small bridge and sat. There was cobblestone and ornate 18th century iron railing. John watched the humans move with millennium-old eyes. He envied them for a moment. They lived and died, yes, but they could do things that vampires couldn't, like evolve. I find your concern over my demise strange. Your church has been hunting vampires for centuries. I would think you'd be glad to be rid of me. Father Bernard popped out his collar and breathed in deeply. John noted his heart had started to beat faster. He felt the urge to take this man up 100 feet in the air and drain him to turn him into a vampire. Instead, he showed concern. This walk is draining you. It's late. I should take you back, John suggested. Thank you, but no. I'm all right. Just need to rest for a little bit. As for hunting vampires, the Catholic Church no longer officially hunts the undead. Vatican II really shook things up. A crowd of people slowly shuffled by, lost in their own lives, unaware of the vampire watching them. Officially? John raised an eyebrow. There are factions in the church that still hunt your kind, but they're not recognized by the Pope. Officially, Father Bernard replied with a bit of a smile. I see, John remarked. The vampire wore a dark gray suit made from the wool of the vicuña, very rare and extremely expensive. John never wore anything that wasn't custom made and out of reach for most people. He had grown richer than any human. Most of his wealth was tied up in art and gold from 1,000 years of theft. Father Bernard went on. Correct. The reality is, someone like you, someone who is as old and powerful as you are, they tend to avoid. But I'm sure over the years you have been hunted several times by us. I was hunted by one of your nuns right here in 1793. She was young, hot-headed, and fanatical. I tried to warn her against attacking me. Really? Did you kill her? Yes. Drained her lifeless not a block away. Virgin blood from a devout nun is the best vintage you can get. I did think about having my way with her, but it would be like spoiling a perfect cut of meat. He wanted to see if the priest would recoil in horror over his vulgarity, condemn him for the sins he'd committed over the long years and renounce their friendship. John wanted to make sure his friend could handle such things. It was important for what must be done. Without warning, the memories flooded back. John was suddenly perched on a nearby roof watching Sister Euphemia attack 2 young vampires below. He was impressed by her fighting ability. Humans seldom did that. The decadence of feeding on a nun was very alluring, but he needed her for something else, so he waited. John, I lost you again, the priest said, looking a bit concerned. Sorry, my memories are becoming more vivid. This city holds a lot of them for me. Maybe I could move to America again, live in New Jersey. I've never been, so there are no memories for me to fall into. New Jersey? I only know it from American TV. Anyway, you should know, Sister Euphemia and her exploits are taught in seminary. She lived a long and holy life. In fact, she may become a saint someday. I didn't know you were that, John. But I should have guessed. Why lie to me? I wanted to see if I could shock you with the story. I didn't know she was such a figure to you all. The best vampire hunting nun ever? Yeah, she's a legend. Really? That is good to hear. I promise not to lie again. Now tell me, how did you become a priest? It's a salacious story, really. I got a married woman pregnant when I was 15. This was in 1967. I was born in the town of Beauvais. It's 83 kilometers to the north. Anyway, she was my math teacher, Mrs. Emma Bouchard. Gorgeous woman. Interesting. So it was sin that led you to God? John asked, smiling. Indirectly, yes. She was 28, if I remember correctly. She'd married young herself. I didn't think it was to be more than a one-time tryst. I was wrong. We saw each other for 6 months. Then one day she cut it off. I think I was starting to become too attached. Weeks later, she told me about the child. She wanted me to keep it a secret, but a small town doesn't keep secrets. I mistakenly told a friend in confidence. The news spread from there. My mother came home and confronted me. I still remember the revulsion in her eyes. I guess she'd heard about it at church. To her credit, she didn't tell my father, who would have beaten me terribly, but she did say I had to repent. I was to become a priest and serve God, or hell awaited. For me, at the time, it was a way to escape small-town rumors. Later, I learned Emma's husband had accepted the child as his own. They both pretended her affair never happened and that the child was his. I would get a letter with a picture from time to time. I always sent a simple thank you note. They didn't have to update me. They named her Brigitte, and she grew up to be a beautiful woman just like her mother. After she graduated, I got one last letter. Then Emma passed, breast cancer. I went to her grave weeks after she was buried to say my goodbyes. For a long time, I didn't know what happened to Brigitte, but then the internet came around and I was able to look her up. She lives in Spain with her husband now. They have 3 kids of their own, one of which looks like me. When I was with Emma, I was legally old enough to consent to sex, but I wasn't experienced enough to deal with the consequences, the priest said before looking up at the sky in a wistful way. Why not reach out to her? That's what I would do, John admitted. The priest shook his head. No. For what purpose? To turn her world upside down? Ruin the memory of her parents? That would be selfish. She's 58. Her life is good, and the past is best left in the past. John thought about this for a second. Around him, the long dead walked the paths that they always walked. He nervously clutched a fist hard, causing a slight pain as his sharp nails bit into his palm. It centered his reality, but it was getting worse. The past to me is as clear as if it was happening right now. I can still smell my maker's hair as she sank her fangs into my neck. She drained me to the edge of death and then opened her own vein and forced me to drink. I died and came back as this. I remember going to America for the first time. It was 1687. I fell in with a man named Robert Brown, watched him grow old, begged him to let me make him a vampire. When he said no, I forced him to drink my blood. We both cried as I drew out his last human breath. The very next day, he walked straight into the sunlight. When I awoke, all that was left was a pile of ash and bone. It was at that moment that I fled back to old habits, draining blood from drunkards to get drunk, sleeping with anything with a pulse or without, waking each night craving chaos. The years have been long. John returned to himself. I'm sorry, but that all sounds horrifying, especially becoming a vampire. Becoming a vampire is like going through death but still being able to walk around afterwards. It's not pleasant. Of course, the word vampire wasn't even in the vernacular back then. She would have been called a demon, a succubus, or even a lilim, which is a child of Lilith. But she was an angel to me. John blinked and went back 1,000 years in time. Virides lay next to him on a bed stuffed with wool infested with bugs. A fire crackled on the far side of the room, its glow illuminating the stone walls of her bedchamber. Her golden eyes flickered in the candlelight. The soft touch of unblemished olive skin caused energy to ripple through every hair. She kissed him with thick red lips, and he felt all reason leave his 27-year-old body. She was a devout Catholic, married to a lord. John thought he had the upper hand. She pulled back so he could see her flawless face. Her naked body shimmered in the moonlight. It was perfect. She was perfect. I love you, John. Be with me forever, she hissed breathlessly. He'd heard this before from several other partners, but in that moment he wanted to be with her forever too. Something about those golden eyes. You are a temptress, aren't you? But alas, I cannot be yours and you cannot be mine. Your husband is a lord, and I am Pope. We're both servants of different masters, my dear. He did not perceive the movement, but she was suddenly up against him. Her lips hovered near his ear. A cold chill shot through his spine. He was instantly intoxicated. I serve no master, and you may be the Pope, but it's an empty title held by an unrepentant sinner. John knew she was right. His father had put him in Rome at 18. He didn't care for God or any of that tripe. She pulled him on top of her. He felt her legs part. "John, you okay?" Modern-day Paris snapped back in focus. Father Bernard had a puzzled look on his face. "I'm okay, old friend. Just remembering a very bad lady with an amazing body." "I see. I lost you there for a good 5 minutes. Does that happen often?" the priest asked. "More and more." "I wish I could help," the priest said. "Really?" "I'm sorry, I'm very confused. Why are you my friend, Father? Humans who enjoy my company are either degenerate, insane, or have a death wish. But you're none of those things, but you still stay. Doesn't all the death and debauchery make you ill? How can you be friends with a vampire?" "I don't know. The concept of you, a vampire, scares me. I've had nightmares about you." Then we speak, and I see a young man stuck in time. There's a deep sadness under all that confidence, all that power. You're alone, even when surrounded by people. I'll be honest, I've wondered why you would be my friend, but then I realized what it was. You need human contact. I think deep down you still love God, too. That's why you keep coming back to the church. I really believe you can be saved if you let God back into your heart. No, I turned my back on God a long time ago, even before I became a vampire. But I do miss the church, the ritual, the community. It will surprise you to know that I was once Pope John the 12th. "Very much so. You were Pope?" John raised his right hand to show an ancient ring. "This is my ecclesiastical ring, not the fisherman's ring they wear today, but it signifies that I was Bishop of Rome, a title I used for my own gain and pleasure." "That's incredible. I know of you. We learned about you in seminary. I'll admit you aren't remembered well," Father Bernard said. "No, I'd imagine I'm not. I was born to a rich family, the Tusculum, in 937. My name then was Octavian, and I grew up in the lap of luxury. I enjoyed wine, women, and song every night. I could do whatever I wanted. Every impulse was indulged, even as a child. I was 10 the first time I killed a man. He was a servant. I ordered him to sit, then I went behind him and slit his throat. No one said anything. They just cleaned up the mess. Today I would be put in prison or some hospital, not nominated to be pope. One of more of my depraved acts happened when a peasant man tried to stop me from having my way with his daughter. He caught us in the barn. He raged at me, threatening to kill me, but he was much older and frail. I threw him to the ground and knocked him out. Then I tied him up and woke him with a bucket of water to the face. We forced him to watch our lovemaking. The daughter played up her moaning. She despised him, or at least she thought she did. The father wouldn't stop crying, which was pathetic, so when I was finished, I stabbed him through the heart. This sent his daughter into hysterics. It's one thing to hate a parent, it's another to help cause his death. Her mind broke. I left her crying over the corpse. She hung herself the next day. You're right. I am a monster, always have been. Buried under an ocean of sins so deep that even God wouldn't absolve me. He looked at the priest, sure this revelation would send the old man screaming from the bench. But Father Bernard's face only showed kindness. "Were you hoping to shock me?" he said softly. "Yes," John muttered. He played with the worn old ring on his right hand. "I don't doubt your sins are great, but God can forgive even the worst sinner, and you are not the worst sinner. Tell me, how many people have you killed?" "More than I care to say. In the early days, I'd drain a victim every night, but over time, I've learned to seduce people, take what I need, and leave them with no memory of what happened. There are times where the bloodlust is so strong that I can't help but to kill. You learn early that too many bodies leads to big problems, especially as human technology advances. If enough humans know about you, you're going to end up with a stake through your heart," stated John. The sound of the old man's heart fluttered and became weak again. John knew that it would stop beating altogether soon. The streets had slowly emptied, leaving them alone in the warm night air. His left hand was slicked with blood. He'd been stabbing his palm to try to keep from drifting into memory. "I feel it's time for you to return to bed. You're tired, and the hour grows late." The priest let out a small cough and sat up straight as if to prove he still had time. His tone was kind but earnest. "What for? To die in my bed? I wish to meet the end out here in the fresh air talking to a vampire." How can a priest, even a corrupt priest, become a vampire? There have to be rules or something. John laughed. I don't have an answer on why God lets anything happen. Why let someone such as me become Pope in the first place? I stopped wondering a long time ago. Again, John's mind drifted. He was 18. People stood all around whispering as he was elevated to Pope. The Roman court was full of vipers, as all courts are. He didn't care. It all bored him. His thoughts drifted to sin as people bowed to kiss the papal foot. You did it again, Father Bernard said, pulling the vampire back through time. You were off in a dream or something. I was thinking about people kissing my foot after becoming Pope. I was bored. Strange to think of now. The church is a wicked place, really. I should never have been Pope, John said solemnly. The church is always going to have bad apples. We do our best to weed them out, Father Bernard replied. Only when the spotlight is on you. Bernard, I've often thought maybe there isn't a God. Look at your own life. Your mother's faith forced you into a life of obedience for having sex with a woman. God didn't speak to you. He doesn't speak to anyone. Like me when I was alive, you're a pawn. But you don't have to die a pawn, John pressed. John, I feel you're trying to push me away, saying things to shock or upset me. I'm no pawn. I know in my heart that God is real. I'm happy with my life. Are you saying these things because I'm dying? I would think someone like you would be very used to death. John stood quickly, towering over the frail priest filled with Arctic contempt. Well, I'm not. I have lost every person I've loved for centuries, and now I'm being forced to relive the past. I can't control it. John began to pace in front of the bench. I'm sorry. I just thought as a vampire, mortal life meant little to you. I thought you were used to us dying. He stopped and looked around. The tourists were gone. Only the full moon watched them. His porcelain skin gleamed in its light. You want a confession, Father? All of the things I've done, I regret. 1,000 years of death, of sin. I do not wish to go on. But even now, when I should just let myself die, I'm trying to figure out a way not to. And then there is you, my only friend. I could die with you here. Wait for the sun to rise and embrace oblivion, or... He trailed off, looking at the priest with quivering eyes. Or you can turn me, so I don't die and can take care of you, Father Bernard muttered. John bowed his head. Yes. No. I want to die a human. I want to meet the Almighty in heaven, he protested. Please. I need you. I can't face this alone, John begged. You ask too much. Let's sit here and meet the end together. John, deflated, sat. A long amount of time passed. I don't want to die, John finally said. I know, my friend, but it is a natural part of life. It's time, John, for both of us. Then the priest patted John's leg, closed his eyes, and fell asleep. The vampire looked at the old man, listening to his weak heartbeat. I could just leave now, find a servant and live out my days in some castle like a fictional vampire. No, I'd go mad. This man, doesn't he see I need him? God has given him nothing. I'd give him eternal life, a purpose. I'd be doing him a favor. It wouldn't be like Robert. He'd come around given time, John lied to himself. He stood again and began to pace. The pre-dawn chill arrived. The sky gave the first hints of the coming sun. Father Bernard dozed on the edge of death, his weak heart almost undetectable by John's keen senses. The vampire looked at the washed-out night sky. Was this it, he thought? After everything he'd been through, it ends on a small bridge in Paris mere feet away from where he first saw Sister Euphemia all those years ago? No, I cannot succumb to my memories or let myself die. The loss of history would be too great. An immortal shouldn't be forced into the sun just because he's going mad. He'll understand in time. I need his help. Father Bernard woke as John sank his teeth into his neck and drank. John, no! Please don't do this! Dear God, please help me, he cried out. The priest flailed for a moment, then stopped and went limp. John quickly tore open his wrist, forced Father Bernard's mouth open, and poured undead blood down his throat. The priest couldn't help but drink it. He convulsed violently and died. He fell to the ground. John waited. After several minutes, Father Bernard's eyes fluttered open. John shoved his wrist into the undead priest's face, and he began to drink. When John decided his new fledgling had had enough, he pulled his arm away. What have you done? Father Bernard growled. I saved a friend from death, John smiled. No, you've damned me. I should be in heaven right now. Enough. God didn't save you. I did. You asked me how many people I've killed? More than 300,000 over the past millennium. Most of them cried out to God as well, and they all died just the same. I did you a service, and now you will repay me with loyalty. No, I will not. I'll end myself, John. I won't live like this. John grabbed him by the shoulders and took off into the night sky. 1,000 feet above the city, John stopped and stared into the priest's eyes. The vampire bore into his fledgling's brain with a command. You will serve me, your God, until such time as I free you. Do you understand? The father's eyes glazed over as he tried to fight the command. It was no use. Yes, he agreed. Yes, my lord. Yes, my lord, Father Bernard repeated. Bloody tears began to run down his cheeks. He looked at the sky. The sun would be up soon. He realized he'd seen his last sunrise. He was John's pawn. John, you left me again. You all right? You said something about not wanting to die and then stared off into nothing for a while. John nodded yes as the thoughts of turning Father Bernard into a vampire faded. It was his survival instinct. He needed a servant, a slave. He looked at the old man, looking back at him with worried eyes. He could not do it. Not to this man. Not to his friend. He smiled. I'm sorry, old friend. I drifted into the past again. I told my sire I didn't want to die when she created me. I guess the memories are very strong in this city. It's time for us to retire. I fear this will be the last time we see each other. You've been a good friend, and the conscience I needed. Let me take you back to church. He stood quickly, knowing he could change his mind at any second. The vampire desire to survive beat hard in his undead heart. He offered his hand. The father waved it off. No, thank you, my friend. I want to sit here and watch the sunrise. I've enjoyed our time together. I hope that you find your way back to God, John. I truly believe he can forgive any sin. Good luck. They shook hands, and John took to the sky like a hawk to sleep another day and dream of his horrific past. I'm glad John stopped himself from enslaving his friend. 2 questions this time. Would you want to live forever? Plus, would you like more stories about John the Vampire Pope? Be sure to tell us in the comments. If you liked this Portents of Fear tale, consider joining our Patreon. There's a link in the description below. Want more horrific stories? Click on one of our other episodes on your screen now. Good night, Fearlings. Sleep well, if you can.